All right. Yes, Mr. Chair. Member Lavalley.
Here.
Secretary Loja. Chair Ritter. Member Parsons. Alternate Welker.
Here.
Alternate Bartlesmeyer. Alternate Jones. Council Member Liaison Clark. Here. And our Commission Liaison Ed Cohn.
Here.
All right, we have full attendance. Can we just make sure that everything is set into a microphone for the purpose of our meeting? Yes, please.
Dennis Lavalley moves the approval of the December 8th minutes.
And I second.
Were there any amendments? Corrections? No? Can we get a voice vote for that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I'll take that as a pass.
Abstain.
Abstain?
Wasn't here.
Fair enough. The items on the agenda tonight are a piece of old business, which is St. Louis Community College 2645.
I believe you covered it.
Is there a public comment period at this point? Anybody addressing the meeting on a hybrid platform?
There are no current participants on Zoom.
Okay.
If there is someone in the audience tonight who would like to speak,
Nope.
I do not see any public comment and I have no cards.
Okay, then. No online comments, old business. Who's going to read in the case?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board. St. Louis Community College is proposing 2 building additions to its campus here in Wildwood, which is located in our town center on approximately 60 acres just south of Manchester Road and west of 109. It's served presently by Generations Drive and is in the cultural institutional district of the town center regulating plan. Given the significance of this project to the community, this item was on the agenda in December for a preliminary review, at which time the board had the opportunity to answer or ask any questions or address any concerns. I would note that at this meeting, and since there were several questions that have been addressed by the department or the applicant, one was regarding allowable signage. The applicant was informed that any signage shown on the building would have to meet the city's sign, sign regulations. Otherwise, it would require a variance and thus further review by the Architectural Review Board. Given the delay, they were given the opportunity to apply for said variance and include this in part of the review. Since then, the applicant has removed the signage from the buildings and plans to move forward with it at a later date. They didn't want to include it so as to not hold up the permitting process. There was also a question regarding solar panels that were brought up at the last meeting. Solar panels would be regulated by the city's regulations, which would require any front-facing solar panels that were visible from the street to get a conditional use permit. The applicant also revised the renderings to more accurately reflect the different colors of the building, as well as removed the access road that went around the detention basin, as well as removed some of the parking at the department's request. Which would decrease the impervious surface. There were questions regarding parking and traffic concerns, all of which will be addressed via the site plan review. However, the department does share concerns about access, and there has been a traffic impact study that I believe is completed and I think we received today, but we haven't had a chance to review it. But that being said, it would be addressed by the site plan review. So I think I have addressed most of the questions. The site plan review is still under review. However, the board may approve the architectural components of this plan if they so choose to this evening. And with that, I'll turn it over to the applicant, who should be able to answer any additional questions. And then, of course, the department is here for questions afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Mike Keller with Krishna Architects representing the college. I'm the project manager and I'm here with Michael Browning, the design architect. So he will address the design specifically. I did want to give just a quick overview. Thank you, Melanie. What you're looking at now is the overall site plan. It's in your packet and describes where the new building is located, where the new parking is located on the west side of the property. And if you could go to the next slide. Oh, okay. Let's see if that works. The program of the building is academic. On the north side, there is health sciences, so nursing, PT, physical therapy, healer med. On the south side, it is focused on technology studies, so IT and some STEM classrooms and labs. It is actually one building per the code, so I just want to be clear about that. I think it's okay. It's a large file. We brought materials here tonight. So would you like us to put them out? How would you like to review the materials? Set them out.
Meet all of you. Oh, yeah, we brought the side samples of the brick.
That's for Zoom.
Sure. Sorry about that. Good evening. I'm Michael Browning with Krishna, and we have brought facade material samples to share with you tonight. So we have samples of the brick that we are proposing for the facade of each building. And then we've also brought glass and metal samples as well. Mike mentioned that the building technically is one building by code, but architecturally, we've really conceived of it as two buildings. So that's partly the desire of St. Louis Community College to have kind of an identity for both the technology studies department and then the health sciences as well. So health sciences will be the darker brown that you can see right here. And that is the portion which is adjacent or immediately adjacent to the existing building on the campus. We are not matching the brick on the existing building, but it was our intent that we would have a complementary palette. So the materials that we're using have been selected to both have kind of a new character, but to feel comfortable and compatible with the existing building. So the health sciences is the darker brown brick. And then the more red colored brick on the end of the table, that's the technology studies facade. There's with each of the facades has what we're calling a field brick to it, and then an accent brick. So you can see a couple of different sample boards here on the table. That's partly because we have these zones within the facade, and it shows up in the renderings that we're calling an accent brick. And we're doing that for a couple of reasons. We have an intent to really create a comfortable and humane and welcoming scale with the building and the facade. So we want to have within the composition of the facade, we have large moves in the facade, larger areas of glass. These occur at kind of important approaches to the building. Also, the main entries to the building have kind of these larger gestures in them. And then we have smaller openings. So we have kind of a small scale as well, which is the openings into private offices as well as classrooms. And then we use that accent brick to create a middle scale in the building as well. So kind of the accent brick kind of ties some of the smaller openings together. So we have small, medium, and large represented in the facade, trying to create some variety. And again, to have this kind of welcoming and kind of humane character with each of the buildings. The massings are shifted. So even though it's all connected as one building per code, it's articulated as two L-shaped massings that are shifted so that you kind of understand it as two buildings. And then the two different colors of the brick kind of further accentuate that. The blue that we're showing here, that's used at the entries. And I think we have a rendering in the packet that shows that. So each of the entries has a kind of protected colonnade space, and that's where we use the blue brick. And our intent here was to create a really, we hope, memorable and interesting experience as you enter the building. And then the blue is also an important color for the college, being their brand color. We brought our glass as well, if you would care to look at that. It's a clear glass. It does have a low E coating on it, but it's very neutral. And then we are also proposing using a fritted glass at some locations to help reduce the energy usage and the heat gain through some of those larger windows that I mentioned a second ago. There will be a little bit of metal on the building. The metal frames for windows we're proposing is a clear anodized, and then we have a mechanical screen up at the roof. So we will have some roof mounted equipment that will have the kind of silver gray kind of, I guess the color of that is called silversmith, but it's a painted aluminum corrugated panel that we're proposing for the.
Could I just interrupt? As you're
Yes.
talking about them, could you maybe just stand them up and point
Okay.
to which one so we
All
can
right.
see which is which?
I didn't know if I could leave this thing. So yeah, so Mike has the metal sample there. And I hope you guys can hear me okay. So window frames and then the corrugated panels at the mechanical screen at the roof. Mike, hold up the fritted glass, please. So we'll have a fritted that's used in some of the larger glass areas. Each building is designed with a common space at its center. So a two-story, we've been calling them living room spaces that will be used for various activities. Those connect to the central green space with terraces, and the idea is that activities in these living rooms can kind of spill out onto the quad. So the dots really disappear, and then our typical glass, it's a clear glass, again with the low E coating for the energy performance, very neutral. And then maybe just hold up one of those brown samples, Mike, if you would. So that's the health sciences building, and the blue glazed is the brick that you kind of enter, or in those colonnade spaces as you enter the building. We have the blue glaze. Our intent was to actually specify a custom blend of the blue, so we would have 3 different colors of the blue glaze, and we brought 2 of them here tonight. And then the technology building is more of the kind of red orange brick. So it's fairly subtle, but it will, you can see in the renderings, it will be legible as 2 different colors. And then that's further accentuated with some different mortar colors that we're going to use as well. So there'll be a deep kind of maroon colored mortar with the technology building, and then the health sciences would be a natural kind of a gray mortar with it. So. We have a photograph in the packet, I believe, at the end, and you can see them together. It's a little bit more of a kind of a bright red on the existing building, and in our estimation, these colors look quite nice next to them. But again, our intent was not to match that brick, but to try to complement it. Yeah, it's sometimes it's hard to get the renderings exactly right. That's why we always show the actual samples with the renderings. Yeah.
Does each blue go with, does that blue go with that set, or are they mixed of blues?
They're mixed. They're
Okay.
mixed. Yeah.
That's what I
So
thought you said, but I just wanted to be sure since you were saying them.
so there will be some range with the bricks. So both the blue and then also in the field brick for the buildings, there's a little bit of a range. And then if you look closely at these, we have both smooth and velour bricks. So we're going to do a custom blend with each of them. So our intent is that there's some personality and some variation within the bricks themselves. And then there's also detailing that we've been developing. So those big windows are outlined with the special brick detail. We've got a kind of a soldier course that we're using at different places on the facade, and trying to add a institutional quality to the execution of the brickwork.
Can you just, either one of them, either one building or the other, hold up the 2 bricks next to each other, just so that we can kind of see.
That's a good.
That's both buildings though, right there.
That's both. Yeah. So, and Mike's right hand is the health sciences, And now that'll have a light mortar with it. And then in his left hand is the technology building, which will have the red mortar with it.
And which is the accent brick, or is that the other things down on the table?
Yeah, so
In other words, I'm trying to get one building, what are the two colors on one building?
yeah, if you, sorry, Michael, it's the one in the foreground there.
Okay, that's what I was looking for, is to try to see, yeah, you can barely
And
distinguish from here.
it is subtle. And part of what you're not seeing here is there is a mortar change. So when you have the kind of the two colors of mortar, that ends up being like 30-40% of the facade. So there's actually quite a bit of change with the mortar. But yeah, our intent is that the brick changes would be relatively subtle, but you would have some variation, if that makes
And
sense.
can you hold up for the other building as well? Now, at least I can see a little bit more of a distinction between those two.
Yeah, and the mortar not being represented, we tried to show that in the renderings, so I think it does come through in the renderings.
Thank you, Chair Ritter, for recognizing me to speak. Yeah, I do have a question about the blues.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering why we didn't commonize this. This is the mica 2 part, right? Material on the blue, the two blues, the blue materials. Why did we go with two different colors of it instead of just commonizing on the one that represents the school's color?
So our intent was to have a range of, actually, there's a middle tone of the blue that's not shown here, but our intent was to have a custom blend of 3 different blue glazed bricks. So, and the reason for that is really just to create kind of some interest and some range.
If I might follow up, Chair Ritter. Thank you. Well, my question is about the blue that represents a school color. Then to see it with that blue, to see how, if it's flashes, if it looks good with that color, or maybe if does the school have a preference on keeping only their school blue?
Well, we have shown that to the school. In terms of like, maybe there's signage or something that would be seen right next to the blue bricks. And I guess you're saying you'd be concerned that the blue of the school color does not look right with the blue of the brick, and to just see those side by side. I mean, I'm not quite sure how best to address that. I mean, we could show it in a rendering perhaps, if that would be useful to see, but yeah. Yeah, I mean, and in our just kind of estimation, it was complementary or fairly close to their color. I mean, it's not like the exact Pantone, but we're kind of working with what's available to us and just trying to get as close as we can to it. But if there's too much range between the blues, you're saying, yeah. Yeah. Well, and part of our process is to mock up the brick as well. And so, and before any large section of the facade would go up, we would have a mock-up of each of those kind of 3 major materials. And that's one place that sometimes we can address those. Like if you see it I mean, this is helpful, but like when you see it on a wall, you may feel differently about it. So that's usually a time when we would try to address that. The stone is a great topic. We talked about that quite a bit, actually. We are utilizing some stone in our site design. So there's a kind of a curving wall that kind of takes your eye from the existing building to the entry of the health sciences. And I don't know if you guys are able to see what's on our screen here. So that would be clad with limestone, which would relate to the color in the kind of the base of the existing building. We are concerned about the cost, so we've tried to limit the areas that we have natural stone in the design. But that bench is one location where we were trying to make that connection. And then your second question, the solar shading. So our facades are predominantly facing east and west. So the horizontal shades on the existing building really don't help us, unfortunately. Where we had, so the fritted glass that I was mentioning was one of the ways that we were intending to deal with that kind of low angle sun, where we have the kind of larger openings in the facade. All of the offices will have operable shades on the inside, and the same with the classrooms. So of course, that's the easiest way to kind of address that kind of lower angle sun coming into the building. And then from an energy use standpoint, kind of the biggest thing we've been doing is trying to get the right amount of glass in the facade. So we're actually less than 40% glass. I think we're around 35% glass. And so that's probably the single biggest thing that we've done from a design standpoint in terms of reducing energy usage, which I believe is the goal with the shades on the existing building. We are, yeah. So we're tracking, I don't remember how many points we're up to.
Right.
Yeah. Yes, yeah. 42 or something. I thought we were in our last meeting, so.
Yes, since this is my second time, I'm going to try to get all of my questions in. Because we're pretty much limited to 2 times to talk. So I was going to ask, how do we tie in this archway structure? If that's part of the stonework, if that's going to tie that in somehow, I don't know. And on the rendering on page 22, for example, that it looks like to me, just looking at it at a glance. And it could be just me, because I have this problem sometimes that I come up with things that don't necessarily affect everyone else. But I look at this bottom area that's got that like recessed brick, and it looks to me like something's bricked up, like a window was there, but it's all bricked up now when I just look at that. And so those areas on the buildings look a little awkward to me. And then my third question is about the sidewalks and all of the sidewalks. You've got a lot of sidewalks showing in these renderings. Is there any way we can make them the pervious sidewalks like we have in our town center, so that we don't have so much impervious surfaces in the area? Those are my questions.
Okay. Your second question, the kind of the bricked infill area, that's actually intended to receive signage on it. So I think that in the final iteration, it will hopefully feel more complete to your eye. So as was mentioned, we've taken all the signage out temporarily, and that would be submitted in a future, as a future project, essentially to the board to be reviewed. The question on impervious, we currently don't have that in our budget at this time, right, Michael? And then I'm sorry,
I
you
could not hear the response.
so all of the stormwater runoff goes to the detention pond on site before it exits. So yeah, currently for cost, we are not showing that as permeable paving at this time. And then I'm sorry, your first question was the archways, on the existing building. So yeah, as you can imagine, that has been the subject of a lot of conversation amongst the design team, how to relate to the existing building. It was our intention, and it was also the stated objective of St. Louis Community College to create a distinct identity for the new building and to have a forward-looking and contemporary aspect to it. But that said, we want to have a cohesive and a campus feel with the new and have a kind of a comfortable relationship with the existing building. And we have actually taken that curve into the site design of the complex. So if you look at the site plan, you'll see that there is a kind of a curving line that leads your eye into where the terrace is and the entry into the health sciences. And I don't know, I think there is a rendered site plan in the packet that shows it pretty well there. And so I don't know if you can zoom in on that at all at the entry to, or this is okay. So the curve of that existing colonnade continues into the terrace that then connects to the entry of the health sciences. There's that stone kind of low wall that I mentioned where we're looking at using limestone. That would be kind of a nod to the materiality of the base of the existing building. And then we have a layer of landscape that is in front of that as well. So there's trees and then some lower plantings in front of that wall. So the idea is that as you're approaching from the quad, you would see that stone, and the curvature of that kind of would take your eye into the colonnade. So we have chosen intentionally to not replicate the arcade in the new building, again, because of the direction that we've received from St. Louis Community College. But our hope and our intent was to create a complementary relationship between the new building and the existing. And I hope that answers your question, but.
If I may. The area, and I'm looking at, well, mine might be, I guess, page 5. And yeah, what is and if you proceed on down, what does that kind of lean on? I mean, at least in your diagram, it does show, it looks like trees and so forth, but what's the adjacent property and what does that feed into, or what are you either protecting against or enhancing, I guess is my question.
I'm sorry, can you point to where,
if you can come down further in this area down here. On that lower slide does not show, but at least on our diagram that was mailed to us.
So that is the property line right now. And currently it's not developed. So it's just kind of woods there right now. At one time, we were contemplating having parking come closer to the property line. So the zone, which is kind of green now, that is really that's just going to be planted as native grasses. But we're not really screening anything. So I guess you're asking, why do we have all those trees?
I mean,
up
I don't have a
against the
problem with the trees.
property
I just
line?
wasn't
Yeah.
sure if there were some other types of, I didn't think there was a neighborhood there, but I didn't know what was on the other side of that and how that might either blend in or not blend in.
No, there's no houses there. The houses, there is a subdivision to the south. What is it, Turkey Trot Lane or something right there? And then there's like there's a little subdivision there, but it's undeveloped immediately to the west.
Okay,
So-
yeah. And is it likely? I mean, you obviously might not know, but I didn't know how it was zoned or what.
Yeah, I don't know. Actually, yeah, Rockwood State.
Is that Rockwood's
Park is
reservation?
Pretty close to our site here, yeah. So. Michael.
That area.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with how the property to the west is zoned. Ours, the school's property is non-urban institutional.
Okay. And how much, I mean, it looks like, if I'm understanding this correctly, I mean, I know anytime you're building, you've got some land disturbance, but how much land disturbance is going to be occurring? Because I was out there the other day and I could see that at least it was somewhat of a hill. There was some areas that I realized, okay, I'd be sitting here on this, and I was just trying to contemplate what that impact would be on the land in that area.
Yeah, there is a lot of grade change on our site. And actually the site plan shows it pretty well. We're changing the contours a fair amount in the parking area and the road that leads up to that. So you can kind of, it's outlined in our site plan. And I don't know if it's possible to go back to the site plan. I can try to describe it, but we are building up the contours at the main drive that kind of takes you to the parking area. So you can, if you can look at this, there's kind of like a green finger there. So there's a lot of fill material which is going to go into that green finger. And then our building is, we're kind of carving into the hill, and we have a kind of like a walkout basement kind of condition where the lower kind of the first floor walks out to the quad, but you actually enter in at the second level of both of the buildings. So we're cutting, and then we're trying to balance the cut and the fill, so that finger, and then back in the back of the site is where some of that material is going to go. We're trying to minimize the amount that's going to get hauled off right now. So yeah, the site disturbance is basically what's shaded in green on this diagram. So that was probably an easier way to answer that question.
Okay. And then an observation, and I know it's not as much relevant here because it's architectural review, but I was chatting with Mr. Ripito here a moment ago because I was concerned, and it will maybe in other parts of the city that these need to be addressed. You mentioned the traffic study is being done, and they have not had a chance to focus on it. I guess I have a bit of a concern, and it was, I think, raised by the council member at the last time that we talked about it, is the impact of traffic. You're talking about a significant number, a lot more parking spaces, because I was looking at those. And if you're going to have a lot more parking spaces and you're going from an 80,000 square foot building to 135 or 140,000 square foot more, you've got a lot more students, you've got a lot more folks, and that's in addition to the traffic we already have coming into the commercial development and to the YMCA. So recognizing that's not something we can address in terms of an architectural review board, it would be addressed elsewhere. I just say that I think I have a concern in terms of what impact that may have on traffic, and whether, for example, looking at if you go to, at least on our sheets, sheet number 3, it may be the one prior to this up here. If there's a finger that goes off to Manchester Road, whether that has the potential to provide some relief in terms of traffic, if there were, it looks like you own the property going out, yeah, there. Looks like you own the property going out to Manchester Road, whether there's potential for relieving some of the traffic that might come out on, what is it, College Avenue by having it access or come in from Manchester Road. So I share that as an observation or a concern.
Yeah, and I will just respond. We did conduct a traffic impact study with Lockmuller, and I think the results of that have just been completed and submitted. So I would imagine that those would be available to the ARB to review as well. And it's a very understandable concern. The result of that analysis was that, just kind of in a nutshell, that for the phase, we're calling this phase 2, that having a second exit off of the property is not required for phase 2, but future development beyond phase 2, the recommendation of the engineer was that for additional development beyond what we're proposing, so phase 3, it would make sense to have an additional exit to the site.
I think that's all the questions I have for now. Thank you.
Anyone, ma'am? Ms. Clark?
I'm sorry, I'm taking liberty to go again, but that brings up a point, and I know this is not the architectural review and to just go forward with that, but the traffic study should dictate a lot of, if that's going to have to be done, if we're going to need something else there to get traffic in and out, and to make sure that the traffic study was done at the time that the school has the most traffic going on, and the why, because we've had traffic studies in those areas before, and they did them at the typical time of day that most high traffic times of the day, which does not correspond with the school's high traffic time of the day. So just FYI on that.
Yeah, if I can respond, that's a great point. I do know that the analysis looked at the morning rush time, the evening rush time, and the midday dismissal time, which I think is what you're referring to. So all of that is in the report, if you care to look at it.
Any additional questions for the applicant? Staff, do you have any questions or comments? Discussion? No?
Mr. Chair, if I may, I'd just like to thank all of you for your patience this evening. We've had some technical difficulties pulling up the presentation, and I just appreciate all the patience you've shown me. So thank you.
Is there any public comment from somebody online, perhaps? No? I'll call for a motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes. Okay, we have a tie. Does somebody want to have a second?
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor? Say aye.
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 All opposed? Nay? One abstaining? I believe that passes. Thank you very much. Can we read in the second case?
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Our second case this evening. Actually, if I'm going to read it in. Okay, our second case this evening concerns Rockwood School District at 17146 Manchester Road. An initial review of architectural elevations and associated plans for a proposed addition to the Rockwood School District's transportation facility. In front of you is an aerial of the site. As you can see, the Rockwood Transportation Facility is to the south of Pond Elementary School off of Manchester Road, in close proximity to the St. Louis Community College. The property is zoned non-urban residence district, and it's in the cultural institutional category of the town center regulating plan. The property is approximately 15.82 acres. The transportation Rockwood School District is proposing an addition to the existing transportation facility, the office and maintenance building there. And thank you, Ms. Ripito. They will be removing two modular office buildings that currently exist north of the existing building, and instead replacing them with green space and an outdoor pavilion along with the brick and mortar addition. And if you will proceed. This is the site plan that was submitted. In blue is the proposed addition. This is the outdoor pavilion, and then there are green spaces also proposed. This is the existing building on site serving the facility. And it's an office and maintenance building. And this is the proposed floor plan submitted by the applicant. And then these are the proposed elevations provided by the applicant of the new addition. Tonight, Mr. Welch, representing Honer Architects, will be presenting on this application on behalf of the school district.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you for your time and allowing us to come in and present on behalf of the school district. My name is Wade Welch. I'm with Honer Associates. We're the architects for the school district. We've done several projects for them, including a storm shelter gymnasium addition to the Wildwood Middle School, which is just up the road a little ways. So I will supplement what you said with just a little bit of information. The school district currently has asked us to expand their transportation facility with the primary goal of eliminating the two modular facilities there that function as their current drivers' break rooms, as well as a office area that they use for, I believe, their safety coordinator. Those modulars, in addition to just not looking real good, are about to fall apart. So we are removing those and adding approximately a 4,000 square foot addition onto their existing office and maintenance building. This will be comprised of 4 additional offices, a new dispatch room, a driver's break room, restrooms, and a training room. As she mentioned previously, the modulars will be completely removed, replaced with green space, as well as a concrete patio that will have a wood structure pavilion with a shingle roof on it for the site. We are addressing some stormwater issues coming off the hill from Pond Elementary, picking those up and taking them away from the building as required per those city regulations. I'm sorry, it's not as pretty or won't be as pretty as the St. Louis Community College edition, but it is what it is. It is an addition onto basically a bus shed. It currently has 6 bus service bays, one of which is a wash bay. Those actually are not being addressed other than enlarging one of the doors And then they have an existing office area that we're going to renovate into a conference room, and 2 of the offices will remain in there. We are removing a set of gang toilets that are currently connected to the building that are in poor shape and have some significant sanitary drainage issues. So those will come down, and then, as I mentioned, we will add new gang toilets to the addition to address the load created by the drivers who will utilize the facility. The elevations currently, it is a CMU block building, painted in a medium light gray. We are going to replicate that construction. Simply bringing CMU, we are going to repaint the entire facility on the exterior, and then we will provide new sheet metal, pre-finished sheet metal trim at the roof line. We will have clear low E glass. Thank you to the architects who were here previously. Their glass sample will match ours. And then we will have FRP doors with aluminum frames, and we will have clear anodized aluminum windows on the facility. So it's not a huge addition. But it serves what they need. It will allow all of their primary administrators to be in one building, and it eliminates the 2 trailers that are there that, if I remember correctly, they're about 28 years old and they're showing their age, you know. So with that being said, I'm going to wrap it up and answer any questions that you have.
Chair Ritter.
Yes.
What, excuse me, what are gang toilets?
Multiple person toilets. They'll have, like a public toilet, not just a single user, but they'll have 4 stalls.
Different stalls, okay.
Yes. Sorry, old architect term that I haven't used in a while.
Thank you, Chair Ritter. You mentioned something about you were having stormwater runoff issues there, some kind of water runoff issues, and you were going to,
If you could
Do
go to
what?
the
I'm
plan, please.
misunderstood.
The current area between the modulars, which button? Top one? Oh. Which one? That. The area where the addition is going is very flat right now, and the slope coming off of the back of Pond Elementary is pretty steep. They've got a trench drain that is in there right now, but it doesn't have a lot of capacity. So we are replacing that one with a wider one that will allow, the stormwater to be caught and then taken off at a better rate. They were having some issues in the current building it was in a heavy rain, it would come right in the doors, right in underneath the doors.
And that is not going to divert it somewhere else that's going to cause a problem in another area?
No, it is not. We're going to pipe it to the creek to the south, which has been reviewed with MSD and with the city already. If you look at the plan, this line here that extends to the south will pick up that trench drain and the roof drains off of this area now, which is all paved at the current time. So we're not increasing. In fact, we're actually decreasing the pervious area by introducing the green spaces that are shown here. You're welcome.
Can I play off on that a little bit further? The outdoor pavilion you mentioned is going to be a concrete surface.
Yes.
Have you discussed with MSD or others and given thought to an impervious surface that might absorb some of that water?
Approximately 60 to 65% of it is going to have the pavilion over it. So it will be impervious one way or the other. If there's a yellow area in the center, that is where the pavilion will be. Again, similar to the previous project that was presented, we are budget conscious in this and we were having issues. Now, that area, there is an existing retaining wall there. We are not paving that entire area. This area outside of it actually will remain as impervious area. It'll be a clean granular material that will allow drainage into it. So we are, as I mentioned, we're reducing the overall pervious area or I'm sorry, impervious area. But in order to provide an outdoor space for the drivers, which was requested by the school district, they did ask that that be paved concrete.
Okay, and then the grassy areas, is it straight grass or is it so that they can lounge or enjoy? Or have you considered more native plantings that might also contribute to absorbing?
Right now it is seed and straw because of the slope on them. I can speak with the school district about doing some native plantings that would be lower maintenance and more provide more absorption.
Yeah, that's just what I'm thinking. It's not being used for recreation. I mean, a break for
No,
the
it
drivers
is
or
not.
something. Whether there might be alternative uses that might make more sense.
Unfortunately, they're really steep. It's like a 3-to-1 slope.
Again, I did kind of visit in that area. I didn't go down
Yeah.
in, but I could see that there was a slope there. But
Yeah.
but yeah, if it's just a suggestion, that as we look at it and recognize that those are some of the issues that we sometimes face is
Okay.
and you're talking about the runoff, it would help MSD with less runoff to the
I
extent
will
some of
review
that
with
gets
the
absorbed.
school district and provide that suggestion to them. There's a possibility they may pursue something of that nature just for lower maintenance.
Yeah.
You know, a low a ground cover shrub of some sort would be a heck of a lot less maintenance on those.
Well, and
hillsides.
going one step further, and I realize that I believe there's a fence in between, but is there an educational value in terms of what might be provided there for the students, even if they're not actually on the property, to be able to see and be benefiting from that? That
Yeah.
would be the other thought that I guess it would have regarding that, to the extent we're trying to teach ecological issues with the students, they could actually experience and see that if that was useful for the school district from an academic standpoint as well.
I'll make that recommendation to them.
Yeah.
I mean, they may very well entertain that.
What is it? So what is the nature of the canopy? It's it's not cloth, it's solid. I mean, you talk about but you've got the outdoor pavilion and it says new canopy. So the canopy is simply going over talk to me about the canopy and the pavilion.
It's basically a picnic shelter. You know, treated lumber with pre-engineered roof trusses, wood roof trusses,
Okay.
plywood roof decking, and the shingle. Between the new addition and the pavilion, we will do a connecting pre-finished metal canopy. It's, I think I want to say about 25 foot long by 6 foot wide. And it, just does an L from an exterior door to beneath the canopy to provide a weather protection area for drivers to go in and out. If in case of rain. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
As shown on the original drawings, we were matching the existing wall packs. We have since been corrected to do downlight wall packs, and we will be making that adjustment on our plans. Yeah. And that includes on the existing building. I want to say there's 5 or 6 existing fixtures that we'll go ahead and remove and replace so that all the fixtures match.
Other than what you've already said, are there any other materials that are going to be introduced new to this area? Or is it going to just match what is there completely
It's going to match what is there completely. That is our goal.
and no fritted glass?
Nope. It's not a fancy project. We do these, our firm, we do a lot of school work and these are the kinds of jobs that we don't make money on, but we do them to keep school districts moving and happy. These facilities are used too. They're not as important as the actual education facilities, but they're not far off. So You take the good with the not so shiny.
Well, and then I mean, I'm less concerned with it, but I do see that at least in one of the drawings, I'm not sure if that's the old or the new building. I guess it's the old building. It shows a window air conditioner, but I'm assuming it'll have updated
Yes.
HVAC systems.
Yes, the shop areas are not cooled. They're heated only. That will remain the same. We will actually replace, there's 2 existing very small units on the building on the office area right now. We will provide 3 for the existing and the new building. They're approximately 3 foot wide by 5 foot long by 3 foot, 3.5 foot tall. On the roof of.
Oh,
the
okay, on the
addition.
roof. So it is
Yes.
again centralized type.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
not window.
Not
Yeah,
window
yeah.
units, no.
Yeah. And what's the overall budget?
2 million. Any other questions? Be happy to answer them.
The only comment I have is that the Department of Planning has reviewed this addition and has provided comments to the applicant, and it will be going through the usual site plan review and permitting process. Thank you.
Just a further question, if I may. So will this increase the capacity in terms of number of buses and assumed to be roughly the same number? It's just to update the facilities for those that are
That is
using it.
correct. In
Okay.
fact, they're potentially even lowering the amount of buses, but that's a different topic for their transportation, how they're running it. But no, it will not increase the buses on the site at all.
So building with essentially comparable capacity to the existing facility in terms of its services.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve.
Go ahead, you have a second?
I second. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you again for your time. Appreciate it.
If I may, Mr. Chair, I would just like to broach the subject of election of officers. It is that time of year again. And we also have a vacancy as the vice chair currently. The department would offer our services at the direction of the chair. If it pleases the board, to once again send out an email like we did the last election of officers. And if anybody would like to nominate somebody, they could send it to the department, or if anybody is interested in serving in any of these positions, again, that would be the chair, vice chair, or secretary of the board. If you would let us know your interests, then we could put together a slate of officers, and or if there were multiple people interested, then could vote accordingly. That being said, only regular members can serve as officers, and we do currently have a vacancy as a regular member. We hope that this will be filled soon. And if that is the case, the department would like to include the election of officers at on the next meeting's agenda, if it pleases the chair and the board. Excellent. Then that's the direction we'll head. And would you like me to send out the email and streamline this process a bit again? Sure. Excellent. Thank you. And that's all I have.
And I'm looking at an old list, if I may. So how many, I believe I'm a permanent, but how many of us are permanent? What's the membership, I guess, in terms of how many members?
So we have 5 regular members, and then we have 2 liaisons, and then is it 3? Yes, 3 alternates.
Okay, so we have 3 or 4 officers from 5 people is what we're saying.
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
So it's just who wants to be left out.
That would be a decision of the mayor. And that's, again, people can be appointed to fill those positions or alternates could be moved to regular positions, but that's ultimately a decision of the mayor. If you had any direction that you'd like to provide, you're welcome to send it to him. Yeah. It's my understanding that if somebody resigns from their position on the board, then somebody can be appointed to take that position and they would continue to serve out the time remaining of that position. And or if somebody termed out, then they would start a new term. And so, yes. So in order to make an alternate a regular member, they would have to be appointed as a regular member and then that alternate position filled. Yep. Pardon? I honestly don't know offhand. Just one moment.
It appears that all of you are set through 2024 at least.
Good news for me.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.